I have an odd collection of games to talk about today that are all kind of intertwined as they all share a couple characteristics and they're all kind of the same gameplay without being the exact same. Now I'm going to start off talking about a game called Princess Maker 2 Regeneration. This is a remake of a game that came out on PC in only Japan, I believe. Now, in this game, it is essentially a life sim, but not with your life. No, you're a hero of some form, and you're gifted a child from the heavens, a little girl who's 10 years old. Apparently the heavens thought, let's skip the bonding, the cute ears, the potty training, the toys, all of those benchmarks in a child's life, and let's go straight to preteen. Now, I can admit, in some ways that does sound nice, especially when I've changed 3 or 4 diapers a day and I'm still having problems with a sassy little toddler. Although I would argue handed a preteen is not much of a gift either. Regardless, you are now in control of this 10-year-old little girl and what she does. You can choose many different paths for her, and all of them do culminate in over 70 different endings. They range from crazy things of being like a super powerful mage to actually being a princess, being a scholar, or on the dark side, marrying you or your butler. Two very disturbing endings, I'm sure. I never experienced them. In fact, I only experienced 2 of the endings. And if I'm being honest, I didn't plan for either one of the endings I got to actually happen. You see, you don't fully control this girl. No, you set her schedule, you decide how much spending money she gets, or what you purchase her as far as clothes or weapons, or if you send her out on quests. You decide if she works and where she studies, what subjects she studies, if she studies at all. All of these things you can set up and put in her schedule. But ultimately, she does have a bit of free will, and will kind of act just how she wants to, and she does have what seems like hundreds of stats to pay attention to, and those can semi-predict what she's going to do. Also, there is RNG of the whole thing, which controls pretty much everything, and can be incredibly frustrating. Although to an extent, I guess that's like raising a kid in general. You don't get to control how they act, you get to control what they do, but that's really about it. And all of those stats that give you just an idea of how the child's doing or how it's going to respond, all of those stats are affected by how you set up the schedule or what you have your child do. The problem is they don't exactly explain that to you, and they don't tell you what any of those things do. Now, it is nice to get somewhat of a readout of the stats. Apparently, that wasn't there in the original game, so it is nice to have all of those stats and to see everything. But honestly, it doesn't really tell you how your actions affect them. Meaning, if you have her study science, it doesn't say how that affects any of her stats, or send her on a quest or vacation or whatever. We never learn how any of our actions are going to affect her. The only one that we can guess on is stress level, as obviously going on vacation or taking time off will lower her stress. Then when you set up a schedule, it pretty much takes care of an entire month. So time does go relatively quick in this game. You see, you have control of her from age 10 to age 18, and then you just see how she turns out. This time takes up about 3 to 5 hours depending on how you play and how many cutscenes pop up and exactly what you focus on. As you see, there is no path at all. There is no guide to this. Much like there is no guide to raising children. There are certain branches you may never even experience, different cutscenes that you may never see. Hell, you may not even send her to go fight enemies, or you may never have her study. Whatever you choose is how the game's going to play out. And like I said, there are little cutscenes here and there. Most of them are very, very basic, very simple. Although these little cutscenes do really allow you to form a connection with this child, and you are often rooting for this child to do really well on whatever they're trying to accomplish. And all of that really lends into a pretty fun little experience that can be quite addictive and also has a lot of replayability. My biggest issue is it's sort of repetitive. In fact, the two biggest parts of the game, the beginning and the end, are both very repetitive, if you ask me. And they're both unified by one common thread, and that is money. It takes money to do anything and everything in this game. And apparently, they didn't get the note that to be a good parent and really raise your child, you should probably work, or at least have access to money. It helps. Because that's what you spend most of the beginning part of the game doing, is sending your child off to work. Because, you don't make money. Only your child does. So, you can't really afford to send her to school very much because it's incredibly expensive. On top of that, If you want to send her off to quests, you have to buy armor, you have to buy weapons. All of this stuff costs a lot of money, as well as just her well-being costs money. Vacations, everything. But again, you don't work. She has very limited abilities to make money, so you find yourself spending months on end making just barely enough to keep your head above water. So basically you're just experiencing the average single parent life, except for the child works. But at the end of the game is also the downside of it as well, because most of the decisions have been made, the big epic moments have happened, and you're kind of just counting down the days until the actual game ends because it just gets really repetitive. It's the same stuff over and over. And at this point, it's really too late to try different things or to start a new path. It's too late, but you're still looking at months and months of time until the game ends. So yeah, at times it feels like a weird combination of no guidance, no tutorial, and yeah, also repetitiveness. So you combine that with also the price tag of being $39.99, and for me, I just didn't really love it. I would ultimately give this game a solid 6 out of 10. I understand that there are some people who absolutely get addicted to this game and are really into it. I'm just not one of them. Let me know in the comment section below, though, if this is one of those games for you. Alright, also, before we continue on, please hit that like and subscribe button. I know it's incredibly late in the video to do that, but gotta put it in there somewhere. I know, at this point no one's watching, but that's fine. Anyway, the next game I want to talk about is a game called Let's School, which I think is a very interesting low-poly sim-style game. It's essentially 2 Points University, but for people who are absolutely obsessed with micromanaging. Spoiler alert, I'm not. But in this game, you play as a headmaster, and you get to decide how you want to build your school. What do you really want to teach? What's the goal? What's the curriculum? All of that stuff. At the same time, your school is also dilapidated beyond all hell. And so you have to rebuild it, you have to put money into it, you have to completely update the entire infrastructure, as well as just like add different classes and hire teachers, hire staff, research new upgrades that you can implement in the school. All of this stuff is at the tip of your fingers. Unfortunately, it's also very fast-paced and very chaotic, while also not explaining a lot of things to you. I found that to be one of the big issues, especially when it came to navigating different controls, as it was easy enough to find like a lot of the menu wheels to, be able to build or destroy things. There's certain aspects of the game that would drive my OCD insane. For instance, there would be like a crack in the wall, and they didn't tell you how to actually fix it, and be searching everywhere to figure out how to repair this crack. But then I discovered that if you pick to demolish it, it just makes the crack go away and fixes the wall. That kind of thing made absolutely no sense to me, but that would be one of the main mechanics of fixing up your school, was actually to demolish it. And there are many things like this that popped up quite a bit, where there was room for them to have more explanation or tie things more together, but instead they didn't at all. One of the other things I had an issue with was just how much managing you really had to do. For instance, you have to set up your student schedule, all of your students. That became incredibly overwhelming, especially as you get a bunch more students, you open up more classes. And not to mention, there's the teachers. The teachers are great for a while until they really need to be recertified or they need a promotion. All of that takes training. You have to facilitate that training. You have to make sure that they're passing these exams so that they can come back to the school and teach at a higher level. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like so many things like that on that micromanaging level that is just too much, and it completely drained a lot of the fun and silliness away from this game because it became like a real job. I kind of want to be a real headmaster. That's too much work. I don't want to worry about every student's class schedule. That's where I did like a game like 2 Point University, where yeah, you just kind of built stuff, you kind of watched the money, and everyone did what they do. Yeah, you do take care of their needs, and this is the same way, because while you are micromanaging all of these people in your school, they're also getting angry about other things you need to handle. Not just the fact that they don't have a class to go to. No, they're mad because you don't have sufficient decoration outside. And so you're bouncing back and forth between many things, and quickly the game is just pushing you along to go faster and faster. And so for me, it just became kind of overwhelming to a point where even like the pop-up tutorials would get in the way of things I was currently trying to do. Oh, you need to focus on adding a trash can, but at the same time, I had a class that was overfilled with students and didn't have enough desks. So I'm trying to figure out how to add desks. All it's doing is telling me how to put a trash can somewhere. So all of this kind of combined into a situation that felt less wacky and fun, less like 2 Point University, and more like, well, work of some sort. I just wasn't having fun playing it and didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I thought I would. Unfortunately, the trailers and everything make the game look really fun and happy and wacky and zany, like 2 Point University, but it really comes out more like if they made a game about doing your taxes. I don't know, for me, I just didn't like it. It just wasn't fun. I really felt like I would much rather be playing other games that are similar to it. In fact, the next game I'm reviewing is a game that's a lot like this, but a lot more fun. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Let's School. Ultimately, I would give this game about a 5.5 out of 10. For me, I could see where some people would go as high as like a 7.5. If you really like getting into the dirt with a lot of this stuff, it could be a lot of fun. Just, I'm not one of those people. Oh, and for anyone who cares, I had no performance problems with either game, no crashes, no lag, no real noticeable performance problems at all. But anyway, that's my thoughts on those two games. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.